and welcome to the Unhinged History Podcast, the podcast where two degenerate people join forces, match their signet rings together, and
I
then
knew it.
we get jewelry this episode. I don't know if you know. Episode 27 is the episode of jewelry exchange.
Anniversary.
Yeah, like, did you get me something?
Mentally, the most beautiful signet ring you've ever seen. It lights up in
Angie,
multiple shades.
Angie. All right, well, we're going to have to call this episode because Angie's got to make a run to the jewelry store because I will not be doing something with glow sticks or.
I am only going to the jewelry store that has a menu that says, "How mad is she?" and then directs me at what I should purchase.
Aside from the misogyny of that, but I don't know how. Okay. But
Okay,
anyhow.
it's hilarious. If you walked into a jewelry/flower shop and there was a menu that said, "How mad is she?" you would not laugh. I would laugh my butt off.
I wouldn't laugh. I would kind of look at it and just be like, so which one of the four C's do we hate the most? Like, are we going for clarity? Is the cut? Is the cut? Like, basically, like if it's got a sign like that, it is not serving the looks I'm in for.
No, it's like a bodega. Like, it's just right there on the street corner. Like,
yeah,
probably...
no. I mean, I'm gonna want some Doors Pain nonsense, right? Like, I'm gonna want some Cartier, some Bugatti. Like, look, you got your red bottoms. I have custom jewelry.
I was just gonna say I'm not trading my red bottoms here.
Like no, but I mean, like, seriously, like I don't know. Like I designed my own wedding ring. The necklace I'm wearing is one that Mike designed. Like, yeah, like I don't know. If you're gonna buy fine jewelry,
buy fine jewelry. Not from the bodega with a menu.
Yeah, like if they're gonna put some tacky ass sign on the side that is probably got some magic marker on it somewhere, scribbling out something. Anyhow,
yeah,
I'm Theresa.
Out of that one.
That's Angie. That's what we forgot to do.
Here we are. The point is, she's trying to say we've spent all week marinating in these stories and we just want to put them on the grill for you.
And this is a history podcast, despite the grilling metaphor and the bizarre jewelry startup.
You did mention Doris Payne, though.
Yeah, okay, but that's a deep cut at this point, What was she, like episode 10 at this point?
Maybe.
I don't know. I feel like I should know that. Let me look that up.
I'll wait here.
Yeah, why don't you? Would you? Honestly,
she's over there cursing at me in her head.
I mean, it's only because my hands are busy. Otherwise, I'd show you what I just learned on TikTok.
There was some discussion in my office today about the many ways you could use your hands to make that gesture. That had me chuckling, to say the least, in my office.
Any of those conversations that sound either HR adjacent or those are ones I'm in for.
They're my favorite. Listen, we just did our HR training. We're fine.
Yeah, was Doris Payne before or after the Great Spaghetti Harvest?
I thought she was right after.
I don't know. It's an older episode. I'm not going to find it right now. I'm getting distracted and I'm going to lose my
Anyway,
notes.
The long and short of it is Doris Payne is a badass with great taste.
Absolute, like, renowned jewel thief.
Great taste.
10 out of 10 would jump out of a plane with her.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd sit in a jail cell next to her.
I'd hope that she asked me to hide something.
That's fair. Please come back, Miss Payne. I'd like to have tea with you later.
I know. Can I stash that 4 carat somewhere where you don't remember or don't want it back?
Great.
Please.
Oh, can I? So what are you going to tell me today? I'm so excited.
Okay, so this started when my mother-in-law gifted me a book. I say gifted, like she actually went to the store, thought about me, picked it up, looked at the cover. She compulsively bought it, read it halfway through, told me about it. When I went to take it from her, she took it back so she could finish it. And then I got it as a cast off and hand me down when she was done. The book is called The Dark Queens.
Okay.
By Shelley Puhak. And it is about these two forgotten queens in Frankish history.
Oh, this is on my to be read list.
Is it really? Let me
Yes.
spoil it all.
I'm so excited. Hit me
Oh
with it.
my
I am
gosh.
so
You don't
excited.
even know because I went through and I started with my notes and I got 12 pages. Like, I am not going. So I started cutting it down, right? And it spills over to the 6th page.
Hey, I'm here.
And I mean, I did my best. I tried to take out a bunch of the extraneous names.
Hey, I finally found a source that for when I do my story might actually make it past 3 pages. So, hey.
Well, on that note, I mean,
watch out for me.
we might actually, like, we may or may not get to, probably won't get to your story, but
I say don't get to mine. It's only half done because I just found this source last
you
night.
suck. That means that, like, we can't record 2 episodes and get further ahead. All right. Anyhow,
You eat dinner in an hour anyway.
I don't eat. I got me another cider.
Oh my God, I love you so much. Your comment literally made my day today. Like, some of us aren't doing anything today or something like that. And I was like, oh, bitch, I was actually eating my lunch.
This is what happens when you text your friend when you're doing stuff and you guys throw shade back and forth because one of you had a cider instead of lunch because you thought, that sounds good. I'm not really hungry. And then realized your tolerance ain't quite what it used to be.
Here's the thing. That's our love language, I think.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not throwing shade, are you okay?
I mean, really, honestly, if I'm overly polite, I either have amnesia or I'm livid.
Or we haven't met yet.
Yeah, actually. Where I'm just like, hi, I don't think I can be absolutely atrocious to you yet. Hold, please.
I'm gauging right now.
It's like find the chink in the armor, slip them a bad meme.
Call it good. If they like the meme, we're friends. If not, block me.
Yep, I'm about to get the ban hammer.
Speaking of which, you are the worst vet I've ever met.
It's a deep cut of memes, and I'm not going to explain that entire one here.
I don't think you need to. Just know.
All right,
my
I am
heart,
the worst vet.
You won me right there. You are the worst vet ever.
I mean, that was one of those memes I was explaining to my sister yesterday because I knew I wouldn't be able to find it in time. And she was just like, that's funny. Oh my, oh. I was like, yeah, it keeps going.
It's better or worse, whatever.
Or worse. I mean, take your pick. So my sources.
Dark Queens.
The Dark Queens by Shelley Poak. It is a whole book and it is incredible. She also wrote an article for the Smithsonian Magazine, really trying to.
Did you say the Smithsonian?
The Smithsonian. Did I say it in cursive?
I heard it in cursive.
Oh, that's, same. The article is titled "The Medieval Queens Whose Daring, Murderous Reigns Were Quickly Forgotten."
They shouldn't have forgot.
I know. And then she did a couple podcast interviews, and all of them are really just about her book. And like, you can't find information about these queens without finding her name and fingerprints on it, unless you read, say, French and you go to France and you touch these medieval documents. I mean, that said, like, her works cited part at the back of the book is freaking thick. Like, I thought I still had another 3 chapters, and I was so disheartened when I was just like, finish. And I was like, oh man,
wait, there's not a map time.
Oh no, there's plenty of maps. There's maps. Okay. There's photographs of the art. Anyhow,
I have no idea how excited I am to hear this story.
Okay. Well, do you know the saying, "It's not over till the fat lady sings"?
Yes.
Do you know where it hails from?
I assumed opera.
It does hail from an opera. Do you have anything more? Okay. So, Wagner. Okay. Wagner wrote an opera. And the one he wrote that has that one, it portrays a woman named Brunhilda as a Valkyrie, and she's tasked with carrying the dead warriors off into the paradise in Valhalla. It is a 15-hour opera cycle.
Oh.
So if you thought Titanic's 4-hour run was a bit long,
Pack some snacks because this is a trip.
right, you're in it for the long haul. And so the fact that Brunhilde was played by a rather robust woman and at the very end sang this beautiful aria, that indicated that that was the end of the show.
Okay.
So it's not over to the fat
It's
lady
not over to the
sings.
fat. Okay, got it.
Okay. So,
Got it.
a great way to shame women's body and to
Yeah, super
explain when
great. Well
something's going to
done.
end. Yeah. Okay. So that's where it comes from. Like, okay, but that Brunhilde is actually based, well, a good chunk of the rivalry and the name Brunhilde versus Brunhild, which is what the original is, hails from this original story.
Okay.
Okay. And we're talking about the this is going to hail back to 6th century Francia. Francia.
Francia.
Francia. Thank you. You can tell I read it and just didn't necessarily pay attention to too many of the
There,
podcasts.
no, I think there's a handful of words where when you read it, that's just what your mind says it is. And then when you hear it actually being said, you're like, no, that's wrong.
Yeah, excuse me. That's say it like it's written.
That is not how it's supposed
No,
to be said.
and it's French, so you don't say half the words anyhow.
Most letters don't count.
Right. They're just extras so you win at Scrabble. It's BS.
I'm here for it.
But anyhow, Francia, as I'm sure you know, takes up France, Belgium, the Netherlands, Luxembourg, Western and Southern Germany, and then a chunk of Switzerland. So that is the kingdom size we're talking about. So it's a decent
Massive.
chunk of land. Yeah. And then in the spring of 567, picture it. Princess
You got to say it just like the Golden Girls. Picture it. Spring 567.
I've actually never seen an episode of the Golden Girls, and I know that feels like a huge misstep.
You have one job.
Apparently I've got many one jobs and I'm failing at a good chunk of them.
Okay, listen, when we're done with this, hit another cider and watch some Sophia, please.
I mean, trust me, like, I know that it's going to be an absolute banger. I get
absolute.
Yeah, like I know Betty White. How can you mess up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I get
and
it.
listen,
I get it.
If millennial men today are wearing shirts with the Golden Girls on them, you know.
No, I get it. I know that it aged well. I know, like, apparently it did a bunch of good things. It just hasn't entered my sphere yet for whatever reason. It's had plenty of time. It just hasn't made its way in.
Okay.
All right. So Princess Brunhild, she comes from Spain. Well, the territory the kingdom that is now Spain. But at the time, she's a Visigoth. She's traveled more than 1,000 miles across the snow-capped Pyrenees, over the sunny vineyards of Narbonne, and then into the land of the Franks.
Okay.
So 1,000 miles. I mean, 1,000 miles today is a long-ass journey. But for her, I mean, that's
weeks.
Yeah. Okay. She's being trailed by wagons that are piled high with gold, silver coins and ingots, bejeweled goblets, bowls, scepters, spurs, silks, the whole nine.
The stuff.
Yeah. Like, now let's give you some background to the kingdom that she's about to marry into. Francia followed Salic law. And so before that, it was a lot of now we think of the eldest son inherits the kingdom. But the way it was back then, it was if you have 4 sons, when you die, your kingdom is broken into 4 pieces. Maybe not equal pieces, but it's broken into 4 pieces.
Okay.
And so the only way to get a bigger inheritance is for one of your brothers to die. And they didn't necessarily care if you were legitimate or illegitimate.
Okay.
Okay. So it was a lot freer, a lot more kind of like a working class citizen happens. Like if your family dies, you go, okay, this is the inheritance. Not like, there is only one throne, only one person can sit on it.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So I just want to give you that kind of background. Her Princess Brunhild's dead father-in-law, which is the reason why she's coming over, is because now she's going to marry and become a queen. He'd had 4 sons. And so the kingdom she was coming into was originally one larger kingdom, now broken into 4 parts. The one she's marrying, her husband, King Sigebert, He's got a massive kingdom, Australasia. Perhaps you've heard of this region.
In fact.
Yeah. Now, it wasn't necessarily the size of the kingdom that really won Brunhild's father over into marrying him or allowing her to marry him. It was the fact that Sigibert's ambitions were also big. He's got a big, decent kingdom that really borders the Visigoth kingdom. And this guy is just not a slouch.
He's got good work ethic.
Right.
Okay.
So, okay. As all this is happening across the border of Australasia, there's another kingdom, Neustria. Neustria? Neustria. That's what I'm going to go with, Neustria. News of Sigibert and Brunhild's marriage is met with great interest and alarm by the youngest brother, King Chilperic. Now,
Did you just make that name up?
Chilperic? I mean, I've been reading it for hundreds of pages, but no, it's Chilperic. So
Okay.
Chilperic. It's French, so she. Just because
Okay.
you just ignore all the letters. Anyhow, sorry, that was.
Sorry, France.
I know. I'll learn French and then realize how bad that joke was.
Or don't live your best life.
I mean, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. I'll just learn the swears. So Sigibert and Chilperic, they share 300 miles of border between their kingdoms. And the only way for Chilperic to get a bigger kingdom as the youngest brother with the runt of the kingdom is to invade his older brothers and take their stuff. I mean, so these are things, right? Sibling rivalry doesn't end.
I was just going to say
changes.
That sounds like a Tuesday.
Right. So this is what he's been doing the past few years. And he's just looking for ways to get more dough. So Chilperic, he's already had a wife, even though he's a little bit unnerved about Brunhild. His first wife, he sent away to a convent.
As you do.
I mean, okay, so his first wife, I didn't necessarily put this in the notes, but she was hilariously petty. Noble blood.
Sorry. We don't get a whole episode of her?
No, I mean, okay, but she's
not today.
Maybe not today, but she's notoriously petty. She marries him pretty much against her will. She's supposed to be like a peace cow kind of deal. And she's noble blood. This is supposed to be great. She doesn't want to fulfill her duties, doesn't want to entertain, doesn't want to be, she doesn't want to be involved in his bed, none of it. Wants to pray the entire time, lament her fate, wear hair shirts, which apparently are as comfortable as they sound, won't sleep in beds, wants to sleep on the floor, wants to really live.
So she's that type of pious that is like, oh, what is that called? Where you're just hating on your own comforts.
Yeah, you're just beating your own flesh every day.
Yeah, okay.
So she's doing that at the top of her lungs.
I love her.
And begging to be put in a convent.
I mean, put her in a convent then.
But Chilperic didn't want to do that because she's noble blood and she legitimates his reign a bit more and gives him more clout. And so losing her would be a huge struck to the ego. Anyhow, she ends up getting her own convent.
As you do.
I mean, he fought with her for a while. So she gets parked in a convent in ruin. And at this point, he wants a bride who will upstage Brunhild. He wants a bride who will also be royal. He wants a bride that'll be even more royal or more important.
This is the youngest brother?
The younger brother. The younger brother wants the older brother's goods.
And the older brother had a former wife that went to a nunnery. I'm making sure I understand
the younger brother. The younger brother's first wife went to the nunnery, and the younger brother wants a second wife. So he's already like...
Okay, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. I thought the older brother who was marrying the princess was formally married to the nun.
Would you get it together? I've got 12 more characters to introduce.
I'm sorry. You did not send me with a tree page to work off here, so...
Yeah, I mean, you didn't do your homework on my story?
That I knew nothing about until right now?
I'm a little offended.
I'm sorry.
Ethan and Ian had one job, and I gave it to both of them.
And they failed me.
Okay, so while I'm up with my feelings. So the youngest brother, he decides he's going to beat older brother. He's going to marry Brunhild's elder sister, Galswintha. And Galswintha, the reason why she is so important is because Brunhild's dad only had 2 kids, both girls. Eldest daughter is
Oh,
set to inherit the kingdom, the Visigoth
right.
kingdom. So this is
Okay.
going to be fantastic. He's like, look, I'm going to do this. It'll be fantastic. Everyone's going to love it. Okay. The problem is there is no way in hell that King Athanagild, which does sound like I just made that up right now, is going to marry off Galswinda to him because he's got the smallest runt of a kingdom.
Fair.
That's what you would think, right? I mean, he would have laughed at this idea, but Chilperic makes a startling offer. So back in Francia, imagine it, Francia.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to do that this whole time. There's a tradition uh, of where you give your bride a Morgan Gabe butcher. That it's a morning gift. So the morning after you've consummated your marriage, that's the time you give your bride a gift. And the more prestigious the bride, the more prestigious the gift. So Sigebert, older brother, for example, he gives Brunhild a lavish estate in southern France.
Ugh, I was born in the
Chilperic,
wrong time.
no, I think we married the wrong man or the wrong men. We didn't marry the same. Like, I have a feeling there are still brides that get entire estates. We're just not of their ilk. They're not even country club people that are given estates.
They own the country club.
You know what I'm several, in fact. They own the country.
Yeah. Liechtenstein.
Liechtenstein.
We love
Okay.
you.
Did you know that Liechtenstein's national anthem is to the tune of God Save the Queen?
I did. But I just recently learned that. And it's
Okay.
funny that I didn't share that with you when I learned it.
Maybe you did, and maybe I'm repeating it back to you like you told it to me. Um, anyhow,
Whatever.
anyhow,
We're
um,
delighted by it.
Kilperic, he decides that he's going to give Galswintha a third of his kingdom to buy her off. And
Is and Big Daddy's okay with this?
King Dad, he seems to really like this idea.
Okay.
Both girls married off, both girls married nobility, both girls can take care of themselves. This sounds
Both
like a
girls
great
have
idea.
estates. This sounds great. We're cared
Right.
for. Done. Okay.
So just a year into the marriage, Galswintha catches Kilperic in bed with his favorite slave girl, Fredegund. The queen's outraged, as you would
As she
assume,
should be.
and she demands to return home. One morning, shortly after that, the palace awakes to find Galswintha dead in her bed. She's been strangled in her sleep.
Oh, that is unfortunate.
Yeah, what's really unfortunate is there's no searches for her assailants, no rewards being offered for their capture, no one's questioned, no one's punished. No one even talks to the guards who were posted outside the door of the royal bedchamber that night.
Of course not.
It's just whoopsie. And 3 days later, he's marrying the slave girl he's caught in bed with, Fredegund.
She killed her.
You know, you're not necessarily wrong because one source writes Chilperic ordered Galswintha to be strangled and found dead in bed. Whether Fredegund urged him on or not, people had always assumed that she had done this, so that she'd disposed of yet another rival for the king's affections. So we don't
Dang.
know much about Fredegund's background. She's done a crap ton to suppress it. Being a slave and being elevated to a different station apparently happened quite a bit during this time because this was post-pandemic, post-massive climate change. Picture it. So there's a lot of instability. There's a lot of slavery, a lot of people, just marrying willy-nilly out of, so this social elevation to this extreme isn't as,
Extreme.
yeah, but it happened. So it's not too out of the
Yeah.
realm of possibility. But normally when you would have a slave that would kind of elevate her self-nobility, she would grant her family members titles and lands and estates and jobs and give them important things. Fredegund does zero of these things. And she doesn't really talk about her past. And she just kind of lets it all. So we have no idea, basically.
Okay.
That's what all this means. Okay. So this is a thing. Now, after. Okay, so also one thing I need to mention here is Fredegund, at some point, she catches the eye of Chilperic's first wife, the nun, the former nun, well, the now nun, because she'd started out as a kitchen slave and gets promoted to queen's maid.
Okay.
Just because she's good at weaving around and being kind of slippery, conniving, shake your pick. She's a woman, so she's going to get a lot of those really negative things. Now, after Galswinda's death, technically, the rights to the lands of the Morgengabe, those should be passed to Galswinda's family, Brunhild. And this becomes the pretext for an invasion that's carried out by Sigebert and the eldest brother,
Brunhild's
Guntram.
husband, right?
No,
there's no another brother. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
Guntram,
okay.
eldest husband, middle brother, Sigebert. The fourth brother, I'm just gonna ignore. He's in the story, but I had to cut stuff out. And then there's the younger brother, Chilperic.
Okay. Got it.
So as all of this is happening, older brothers decide they're gonna go down and kick the crap out of younger brother so that they can take back the Morgengabe to give it to Brunhild, because technically it's hers anyhow. This is going to force him to give it up. Particularly since he kind of killed her sister.
Kind of a thing.
My wife's kind of pissed about this. We've got to do something.
I don't know if you know this, but happy wife, happy life and all that.
Yeah, and you killed her sister, dude. Okay.
Kind of upset.
So as they're doing all of this and trying to force Chilperic to give up these lands, it's 575. The fighting is spread to Chilperic's capital of Sissoin. Sigebert and Brunhild, they take up residence in Paris. And they're thinking of it as being the possible new capital for their dynasty.
Okay.
Chilperic is forced to pack up his treasury and flee as his brother rode out to accept the offers of loyalty from the nobles in Chilperic's northernmost territories.
Okay.
These are all things. These are exactly what you would expect to happen. It's like, look, you are a foregone conclusion. You are going to win this war. I might as well swear my allegiance now and make out money ahead on this. Be done with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Brunhild is being welcomed as the queen of Paris, and Fredegund finds herself as the queen of a bunker 40 miles away. And it's in this bunker that Fredegund gives birth. The baby's weak. They desperately need it to live because it's a boy. But Fredegund is absolutely despondent. She is just over it. This isn't what she wanted for her life. This isn't how she wants to end. This is just awful. So she's having big feelings. And this is when normal people would make a last confession. They're going to call a priest. Fredegund summons 2 slave boys instead. She wants them to slip into the gathering where the armies are celebrating Sigebert's victory and assassinate him. If the boys were successful, they'd have zero hope of making it out alive. So she's sending him on a suicide mission.
This sounds like an episode of Game of Thrones.
Honestly, this inspired Game of Thrones.
It has to.
So it's common for these men to carry what's called a sacramask. It's a hunting knife with a 12-inch blade. And these knives are so ubiquitous that the boys can carry them openly in their belts and they're still going to appear unarmed.
Right, okay.
So Fredegund hands the boys a small glass vial of poison. And there's many poisons that are available to the Merovingian household, which is this whole family line. There's only 2 that would kill on contact, wolfsbane and snake venom. But both tend to lose their potency fairly quickly, and they need to be applied to the weapon right before the attack. So you can't just put it on overnight, let it dry, and then do your business. You got to be...
Or just pour it in his wine?
I don't know.
I
But
think that'd be the more covert way to do it.
I mean, you're thinking about how to poison. She's thinking about how to execute, right? Like she just
I'm
wants
just
this
thinking about
done.
how to execute and not die.
Look, you've got people to do it for you.
Okay.
So the morning, these boys are likely, they manage to get themselves into camp. They declare themselves defectors. They smear their blades with poison and they hang them back in their belts. And they catch up with the king and they pretend they want to discuss something with him. And then we don't know how big of a wound, but it said the smallest of wound would have killed him. Confused, Sigebert gives a little cry and falls. His guards quickly kill the two boys, but within minutes, Sigebert's dead.
And this is
And
Brunhild's husband.
yeah. So
Oh,
this
devastating.
assassination changes the power dynamic in Francia. Sigebert's armies flee while Chilperic and Fredegund leave their bunker. They take control of Paris and they start expanding their kingdom's territory. Chilperic now realizes it was Fredegund that did all of this, and he makes his queen his most trusted of political advisors.
Right then.
So she went from slave to right-hand man.
And queen.
Well, I mean, the queen was in the middle.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's now 584. Chilperic is on his way home from a hunting expedition, and he's assassinated.
Okay.
Circumstantial evidence strongly suggests that Brunhild's fingerprints are all over this.
Okay.
It's after, and at this point, Fredegund has, some sons. I think she's got one. And so she's really trying to hold on to this kid because she needs to hold on to power. And it takes a lot, but she ends up becoming a regent for her own kid and starts ruling over Neustria. Soon, the only person standing between these two queens, Fredegund and Brunhild, is the eldest brother, Guthrum.
Okay.
So Guthrum's ruling over Burgundy.
Probably has a wife who's at home knitting and is like, Guthrum, just stay out of it.
He's a widow. He's got no surviving sons.
Oh, okay.
And these queens are competing for his favor. And they're hoping he's going to name their kid as his heir.
Oh, either one of them's children, right?
Yeah,
okay,
because they want to keep the land in the family.
Right.
So who's it going to go to? Is it going to go to my kid or her kid? I mean, she killed my husband. She's kind of an asshole.
How about you just marry me?
I don't think either of them want to marry him because neither want to lose their power. Like,
oh, right, that makes sense because they're both regents now. Yeah, okay.
One bride or one former wife ends up going to Guthrum and saying, hey, I'm bringing you all of this money. I want you to treat me right. And he ends up taking all the money, welcoming her in, sending her off to a convent, laughing at her and taking all the cash. That's how he feels about women.
Got it.
Okay, so these Brunhild and Fredegund, they've seen this, they've heard this, they know him. He's been at Christmas. They know what kind of man he is. They don't want him in their bed.
Got it.
All right.
So they agree on something.
Yeah. So he would love it if both of these women just retired to a convent. That ain't happening. I mean, Fredegund, at this point, she's had to assassinate so many people to keep her opponents in line. Like that, she's the one to kill you. Yeah, Brunhild's going to use
not the place to go.
Yeah, Brunhild's going to use things like diplomacy. She's going to write letters to the Pope. She's going to write letters to the heads of the Byzantine Empire. Fredegund's just going to...
She's going to Cersei it.
Yeah, basically, yes. Actually, okay. Cersei's a brilliant analogy. Okay. Meanwhile, Brunhild, she's regent for her son as well. And then at some point, her son ends up becoming, hitting the majority, so he can now rule on his own. But she still rules beside him as a co-ruler. He ends up getting married. She's still co-ruler. They refer to Brunhild and her son as the royal pair.
Okay.
So this is just like, holy crap. Like forgers knew if they want to forge documents, they use Brunhild's signature or signal. Stamp?
Yeah.
Signet. And they don't even try to do her sons. They know it's going to be cause of forgery immediately because he doesn't do crap.
Okay.
Okay. Seal. That was what I was looking for. Anyhow, um, March 28th, 592, Gunther finally dies. And for once, there's no talk of poison.
Oh, okay. Natural causes then.
Yeah. Gunther was, by Merovingian standards, a very old king. He had just passed his 60th birthday, and he was very clear about what his nephews would inherit. Fredegund and her son were allowed to keep their small kingdom, get a little bit more. Brunhild's son inherited Burgundy,
Okay.
which meant that the land of the royal pair, as they're referred to, now dwarfs and encircles the lands of Fredegund and her son.
Oh, okay.
Both queens are now in their late 40s.
Wow, I did not picture that at all. Okay.
I mean, you got to think both
It's been a
started in
few
their
years.
teens, right? Like they've been at
Yeah.
this for a while. I mean, these queens fight for 40 years.
Good Lord. Okay.
And it's not like a petty cat fight. I mean, they're killing each other's husbands. Like, you know, it
Yeah.
kind of escalated a bit.
A little bit.
Okay. So peace holds until about a year after Guthrum's death. It's now 593. Brunhild approves an attack on Saison. Saison being the capital city of Kilperic and Fredegund. The countryside is devastated by their attacks, and all the crops get burned to the ground.
That checks.
Fredegund gets a little hot under the collar. She's got some big feelings about this, so she marshals what forces she can, and she decides to march out with her men.
Love it.
So, you think about it, things are as they were. People are people. Men bond while they're serving the armed forces. Armies, they tend to have their own cultures, their own jokes, they have shared history. Friendships are formed while marching, pitching camp, deciding like all of that. Fortunes are made while robbing and pillaging towns. Like this is what you do to form tight bonds with your army. The queen might occasionally come behind enemy lines with her king or while being evacuated by one place or another, but she's decidedly not considered a warrior in her own right. Like that has never been the place of a queen. Fredegund, she decides we don't know whether it's out of design or desperation, but she's going to change this. She marches to a place called Bernie Riviere, which is one of Chilperic's favorite villas. It's situated just outside of Saison. Fredegund raids one of the treasuries, and just like a traditional barbarian king, she distributes the valuables among her own soldiers. So basically, they know they're going to lose this treasury anyhow. So they just raid it on their own, give it to her own troops.
Cool.
That way the men are like, hey, this is kind of nice. Like, I like this. And she's hoping it gives them a little bit more of nerves of steel because they don't know yet. The men don't know yet how painfully outnumbered they are.
Right. Okay.
So she's really trying to do her best to keep them in her good graces.
Okay.
She realizes that she's got absolutely no hope of defeating them in an outright battle face to face. So she decides that she's going to be a little bit different. They march 15 miles at night for a surprise attack. And Fredegund is thinking about this the same way as a Roman field commander might. So this is right after the fall of the Roman Empire. So
I was actually just thinking, like, very similar to like Caesar wanted to make sure that whatever Caesar you were wanted to make sure your men loved you because they had no problem rising up if they didn't.
Right. So not only that, but she also knew that if you're going to confront a larger army, you need to make damn sure that you've picked the battlefield and you need to use whatever trickery you got up your sleeve to get this done. So she tells her men to disguise themselves. They pick up tree branches. They're marching at night. It's completely dark. And she ties an occasional bell to a horse because at night armies would just let their horses roam. They'd have bells tied to them so they could go forage for their own food. So you just hear the tinkling of little bells. Think of it like range cattle.
Right.
Okay. So she's having the men carry the tree branches to disguise the men on horses behind them So it's a walking forest.
I love this.
They walk 15 miles. They surround Brunhild's army. And then at sunrise, they're surrounded and slaughtered.
Brunhild's army
Brunhild's
or
army. Okay, so
okay.
I should say a sentry approaches. He hears the tinkering bells and he asks, "Weren't there fields in those places out there yesterday? Why do we see woods?" Another sentry laughs at this alarm and says, "But of course, you would have been drunk. That's how you've blotted it out. Do you not hear the bells of our horses grazing next to that forest?"
Oh gosh.
Yeah. Uh-huh. So they die.
Mm-hmm.
Brunhild's army saves Saison, and then they go on the offensive, and they're riding east and they're penetrating 40 miles into Australasia's territory. And then because she's a little heated about burning the crops to the ground, they she
Wait,
set
whose forces
Bru-
went 40?
so Fredegund, she
Okay.
goes 40 miles into Australasia, which is Brunhild's territory.
Okay,
And
I just
because
making sure because I thought you said Brunhild and I was like, oh
yeah,
wait.
no, sorry.
Okay.
I mean, I might have, but I didn't mean to. So then, at this point, they're in the Champagne region, and she burns everything to the ground
As you do.
because she's a little pissed.
Mm-hmm.
They return home like a true Frankish warrior with tons of loot, tons of spoils. And that is basically Fredegund in like, encapsulated. She just went out and took it. Fredegund, she ends up, like according to historical records, dying in her bed.
Okay.
So well done. Small problem. There's while there's no actual like, hey, we think she was assassinated, historians kind of look at her death as being really convenient for her son.
Rough.
Yeah.
And she only has the one, right?
She only has the one son that lived. She has two daughters that survived. I mean, she had
Okay.
like 7 kids, most of them sons, and she just kept losing sons like I lose most things. And
I was I was so hard waiting for you to give something specific, like she loses sons, like I lose socks, and you're like things, all the things.
yeah, basically anything I put down is gone. It disappears into a black hole
Yeah,
underneath my hand.
I feel that.
Yeah. I mean, I wish I could say it was only the one thing. It's not the one thing. So at this point, when Fredegund dies, Brunhild is still regent.
Oh,
But at
right,
this
right, right.
point, her 2 sons have died.
Okay.
So she's regent over her grandsons.
Okay.
So she's still in the
Feeling
seat.
it. I
It's
like it.
it's after she dies. I mean, I could tell you how she died. I don't, it's kind of a buzzkill.
Okay. Brunhild or
I mean, we know that Fredegund dies in her bed.
okay.
Maybe murdered.
Nah.
Maybe, it's
Keep your local
convenient,
coroner busy. Die
right?
weird.
Die weird. Um, Brunhild gets captured by her nephew, Fredegund's
Mm,
son. Fredegund's son, King Clothar II. He's a bit pissed because this chick has made his life a living hell, killed his dad.
right. For in most of his life, it's been a living hell.
Yeah, she's just been a thorn in his side. So he kills her anyway. Like when they capture her, they're like, okay, well, they're going to send her to a convent. She's going to go to a convent. She's going to go to a convent, right?
Like that Star Wars meme, right?
Right? Yeah. Each of her limbs is tied to a horse.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's all you need to say. Got it.
Yep.
Okay.
So the queens die, and Fredegund's son, King Clothar II, he takes steps to obliterate the legacies of his mom and aunt. And then things only get worse for Brunhild and Fredegund and their reputations during the Carolingian dynasty, King Charlemagne, the whole nine, when that happens in the 8th century. There's Carolingian women who attempted to rule as regents as well. And so historians at the time were tasked with showing women and women with power, leading to chaos, war, and death.
Because of these two broads.
But yeah, exactly.
Let's not account for the fact that their husbands started it.
And they just did it better, longer.
They finished it.
Right. Look, you give me a fist, I'm returning it broken.
Yes.
Yep. Fredegund's recast as a femme fatale, and Brunhild is a murderer or murderess, lacking all maternal instinct, which is so far from the historical record, it's laughable. Because you watch Brunhild bend kingdoms in half to get her children safe.
That checks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Freaking historians.
Yeah. Well, the historians are doing the work. With their accomplishments cut from history, the queens took root in legends and myth. The walking forest strategy that Fredegund engineered appears more than 1,000 years later in Shakespeare's Macbeth.
That's awesome. I was thinking it sounded familiar, but I couldn't place like where or what I'd seen it before in, or like how it was mentioned before.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Some scholars and folklorists have found iterations of the strategy in 11th century, and again at the end of the 12th century. But Fredegund's story predates the earliest of these battles by 3 centuries.
Yes.
And so she pioneers this whole thing.
I love that.
And then there's mentions of a walking forest in Celtic myths, and those are difficult to date.
That's where I'd heard it from. Okay. Because I was thinking when you had mentioned something about the soldier saying, like, no, obviously you were just drunk yesterday. I was like, that's a very Irish statement to make.
Right. But we have recordings of that because we have people that survived that said, oh gosh, we should. Billy saw this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
But with the Celtic myths, we don't know if she was inspired by them or if she was raised in a Catholic community before her enslavement and maybe picked up on some of these strategies from older pagan tales that were told to her as a child.
Right, because we don't know. Right, okay.
She is a blank slate, which is marvelous.
Yes.
So the queens, they resurface in the 19th century as Romanticism sweeps across Europe. In England, we kind of see this resurgence of King Arthur. In France and Germany, we see it with the barbarian tribes that ruled after the fall of Rome, like the Merovingians. I said it so strongly and so correctly the first several times, and I blew it here. Anyhow,
I loved it.
These are all things. In 1819, people wandered the halls of the Paris Exposition with long hair brushing their shoulders, dressed as the Merovingians, which is just fabulous. There's a flurry of works that features the queens. There's a multitude of books, poems, operas, plays, prints, portraits. There's a poem. I'm going to butcher this because it is not. It translates to the Song of the Nibelungs. And that's written actually in the year 1200. And that's where we get the operatic tale from. That was the one that they made the tale, the Brunhild with the, Vikings, it's not over till the fat lady sings. That
armored boobs, the whole thing.
Yeah. So the main plot line focuses on an argument between two royal sister-in-laws that ripped the realm apart. And that's the text that serves as the inspiration for the opera, the 15-hour-long opera, should you have nothing else to do with your year.
That is an entire season of something.
Yeah. I mean, you need to break that down to smaller bits. You don't binge that.
Yeah, no, you take a break.
Maybe that 15-hour opera was the original binging.
Maybe.
Anyhow, Brunhild's grave, 0 markers. The abbey where she was buried is now in East Central France. It was sacked during the French Revolution, like many. This is why we can't have nice things.
Yep.
Only the lid of her supposed sarcophagus remains.
Okay.
There's 2 pieces of smooth black marble slab that are on display at a small museum, along with a couple of vases and statue fragments. Fredegund's tomb is on display at the majestic Basilica de Saint Denis in Paris, where it was relocated after the revolution. So after she dies, she's buried next to her husband, and their bodies removed. The queen's likeness is rendered in stones and enamel that are set to the mortar, and that image is outlined by copper. And the former slave holds a scepter and wears a crown.
The
Yet,
Statue of Liberty?
what was that?
Is she the Statue of Liberty?
No.
Oh.
I wish I could say that that's where we got it from, but not so much. Yet for the glory of how beautiful her tomb is and everything that we get to keep, Fredegund's complicated legacy is reduced to the inscription Fredegundia Regina Uxor Chilperici Regis. Queen Fredegund, wife of King Chilperic. Neither of these monarchs is commemorated with the title that both demanded, absolutely earned during their lifetimes. Not wife, not mother of kings, but a great phrase that I won't read out loud that translates to the most excellent and glorious queen of the Franks.
Can you send me that phrase?
Okay, it's...
You don't have to read it out loud. Can you just send it to me?
Yeah, I can totally do that. I will totally do that for you. But that is the story of Queens Brunhild and Fredegund, the forgotten queens of Francia that held the 40-year civil war.
I love that so much, and it will be going way at the top of my to-be-read list. Now, it was like several pages down because it's in years.
Do you have the book?
I don't have it yet. I just have it in my list of like my Kindle list.
Do you want the paperback?
I'm not going to say no.
Because I have it somewhere. It's in the other room, but I have it. I can just send it to you. It's pretty much what I do with a lot of my books. Hey, I read a book. You know it because the UPS man dropped it off.
I love that word.
Procelliantissimiae et glorissime Francorum Reginae.
I love that so much.
Right?
You should have been wearing a crown while you did this.
I can't in their presence.
I knew.
Okay, so I was telling Ani stories about these queens, and one of them, so Fredegund has one of her daughters that just, they get on each other's nerves and they fight and they fight and they fight. And they have
Fredegund and her daughter?
Fredegund and her daughter. Like they have knockdown, drag out fights. And I can't say that and make it not sound like a hyperbole. But at one point, the servants come rushing into Fredegund's bedchambers because they hear screaming. Fredegund has taken her daughter's head and is holding it on the edge of a trunk and is slamming the hood of the trunk down on her.
Oh my gosh.
And the servants rip the two of them apart, afraid that Fredegund's going to kill her daughter.
And all this was about because the daughter wanted to wear the pink bow, not the yellow one.
I mean, I think it had more to do with the fact that she just wanted out of her mother's household, wanted out of her mother's control, had a marriage proposal that fell apart and was really ticked off at her mother. At some point in the process of this falling apart, like the daughter is forced to seek sanctuary in a church for like an inane amount of time. And Fredegund's busy trying to like stay alive and keep everybody alive. So she can't go rushing to the church to come get her daughter.
So make nice.
Yeah. So basically everyone's got big feels. Nobody got to take the car when they needed to take the car. And now we're slamming each other's heads and trunks.
How did the wee girl feel about that?
Apparently she had some big feelings. It made mommy have big feelings. And now everybody needs to go do some cocaine about it.
And remove all the traveler's trunks from the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, great read. You'll absolutely love it.
I am super excited. Super looking forward to it. Can you hear the helicopters?
I mean, maybe. I can't tell if they're motorcyclers coming from my headphones or not. So,
Oh, there's helicopters flying really low over. It's summertime in California, which means fire season.
yep.
So they are flying low overhead today, which is interesting because I haven't received an alert. Usually, when they fly this low, the alerts go off because the fire's pretty close.
Right. Now it's like, hey, you remember that go bag we told you to pack yesterday? Uh,
Mm,
Is that in the trunk by chance?
there
It should
should
be in the
be.
trunk.
Should put it there. No, we don't have go bags packed, but we do have like outside of clothes, like as far as like paperwork. All the paperwork that needs to leave with us is right next to the computer, which will also leave with us. So we'll just be able to take everything in one.
One go. Well
Yeah.
done. Well done. It's a
Yeah.
bummer that you have to have that kind of planning.
Yeah. I remember one time there was a fire in the field across the street from our house. This is shortly before it's a horse field now. There's horse and cattle in it, so it's not so big of a issue anymore. But before it used to be just kind of an open meadow
Mm.
and it would light on fire pretty regularly. So there was a pretty good sized one once, and I came home and the neighborhood was, obviously blocked off and closed down, but it was literally right across the street, like flames licking at the road. And I get through the front door, and Ian looks at me and goes, "Okay, the sheriffs were just here. We're not being evacuated yet, but they said to plan for evacuation. So do you know where your favorite t-shirt is?" And I can say I've never appreciated somebody's planning better than him, because he knew I was just gonna sit there and be like quietly stressed about the whole thing. So he was like, "Let me find you the thing to do. Where's your t-shirt?" So I spent the next hour looking for my t-shirt, because it was, I just like redid the whole like organization of our bedroom.
Yeah.
And so he kept me occupied until the sheriffs came back and said, "Okay, you're good to go. You can stay home." Cool. Thanks for that. I also know where my t-shirt is. I'm gonna go take a shower now.
Yeah. Now that I know I'm not going to leave in a panic.
We're good. Okay, bye. So yeah, now it's not so much a sad thing as it is just a state of summer. We just expect it. We're like, yeah, okay, know where your favorite t-shirt is.
It's the California equivalent of Hitchhiker's Guide. Do you have your towel?
Exactly, which is the second most important traveling item. Where is your towel? Yes. And everyone in my house has a favorite towel.
My husband likes these really thick beach towels,
Mm-hmm.
and he didn't realize they were beach towels. And I was just like, I kept getting upset because I kept folding them and putting them in the back of the closet and then pulling out the bath towels.
Mm-hmm.
It's not beach time, it's bath time. We don't need
Different
to,
towels.
yeah, like we don't need the massive one. And he uses two of them. And I'm like, my love, you are a fit man. You do not, you don't have enough body.
Nor do you have enough hair.
Yeah, I mean, he's bald.
Because I now have this image of him wearing the hair turban.
What he does is he half-ass wipes down the lower half, wraps the towel around him, and then takes the other extremely large towel, the terry for two, and proceeds to very systematically dry the rest of him. And I'm like, how do you use so much terry cloth?
Why? I love this for him. I hate it for you though, because I know how this feels.
It's not as infuriating as when I opened the closet, I saw 3 drills in the hall closet and no hammer. And I said, I just need to hang a photo. And I hate to tell you this, babe, but you have 2 hands. Let's do some simple math here. I don't understand why we have 3 drills. There is no world in which you can use all 3 of them at the same time. And I don't see you walking around the house, wee, 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 drill in either hand.
Theresa, he just has to have them.
But I ended up hanging a photo with a stapler, bashing a nail into the wall with a stapler because it seemed to be the best choice because the drills were unwieldy.
The most effective.
And I'm like, can't I have one hammer? You have 3 effing drills.
My constant battle is over the measure tape. We're always measuring things, always. And so
I,
I've always kept one right outside the garage, like right outside the kitchen in the garage, and he
yeah.
gave it away. And I was like, "Why did you take my measure tape?" He's like, "Oh, so and so needed it." And I was like, "Well, you better
Well,
get to
your
Lowe's."
wife needed it first.
So he immediately went to Lowe's and procured me another one.
Oh, good for you.
I
I
also
can't keep
have
my
a
hands
dress
on.
measure tape in the silverware drawer.
That's that's interesting.
Because when the boys were littler, measuring their height.
You don't just draw it on the wall?
No, we do, but they were always specific, like, how many inches tall am I, Mom?
It ain't
You'd have to.
Disneyland. We don't have to worry about that.
Oh, it's important when there's two. They need to know.
That's fair. All right.
We don't. This is a battle. We don't fight. You got it, sir. You're 71 millimeters tall.
Millimeters?
I'm
He's
just.
that tall?
I'm just changing it to different measurements.
I mean, no, your son now is Tiny Tim, pocket sized.
That's like 10 millimeters. 70 millimeters would be 7 of those. The fire is like 15 miles away. It's 15 acres. It's called the Johnson Fire.
It's got its
I
own
just
name.
I just
Look
got
at
oh
it.
yeah, they all get names. Yep, just got it. 2 additional air tankers. All right then.
Okay. Well, if you have loved listening to me regurgitate my book report that I did, and you just can't get enough of book reports like this, then rate, review, subscribe. You can also email us. We're at unhingedhistorypod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. Even if you're just
Absolutely
here to
would.
tell me how I butchered any of the words that I said and my retelling of French should have me flogged. I'm here for it.
I won't let you flog her, though.
I mean, I'd like to see you try. I'm getting stronger. I'm getting ready to ditch my last crutch.
Ooh, girl, get
I know. And for my next trick. No, but
it.
seriously, we enjoy this. We do this for you. So give us a shout. And on that note,
I was
goodbye.
I always thought we did
Oh,
this for each other and we just subject everybody else to it.
I mean, okay, no, I do it for you. I truly do. And then occasionally I'll get a LinkedIn message going like, hey, I love that last episode. I'm kind of bummed that I don't commute into the office anymore because I don't have a lot of time for pods, but I listen to you when I'm mowing the lawn. The
Okay, I guess
phrase,
that means
I
we
listen
do
to
it.
you when I blank, is difficult for me to hear out of context, but I try to make it work.
I love that.
Do you get that yet?
I got I'm how did she word it? My girlfriend just recently listened to the Liechtenstein podcast and said, quote, I am now a Liechtensteiner. Your podcast was so much fun. And I was like, Liechtensteiner it is. See, I guess we do it. We do it for everybody.
It's a public service.
It really is. It's giving you something to listen to while you mow your lawn and commute.
Right.
Yeah. Just saying.
You could be doing cross stitch to the sound of screaming cats, but you're listening to us.
And cross stitching.
Well done.
Yeah, I'm here for it.
Okay, well, on that note, goodbye.
Bye.